Welcome back to the Victory Podcast. I'm your host, Steve McGrath, and this week I am pleased to bring you Kyle Duggar. Now that we're in 2020, we're in that time period where all the seniors from college football, they're getting ready to go pro. And for some lucky ones like Kyle, they're going to be playing in the Senior Bowl. So you may not know who he is yet, but you're going to be seeing him in a couple weeks. He's the only Division II prospect to get invited to go to the Senior Bowl, coming out of Lenoir Rhyne, where he was the D2 Defensive Player of the Year. He has an incredible story of being a 5'11" senior in high school that no one was fighting over to working his way into this game. I wish Kyle the best of luck for the next couple months and all the years ahead of him. It's going to be a wild ride. But before we get into that conversation, I need to remind you all that we are brought to you by Team Builder. Now, Team Builder offers strength and conditioning programs to more than 500 high school footballs nationwide. They also work with the NFL. So go to their website, use the promo code VICTORY, and you can get a free 10-week spread offense strength training program when you go there now. So without any further ado, here is my conversation with Kyle Duggar. On the line, I have Kyle Duggar. Kyle, thanks for taking the time tonight, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the invite.
Oh, of course, man. I mean, there's not that many D2 guys that get an invite to the Senior Bowl. I mean, just to start here, what has been the last year been like for you? You were like this hidden gem that no one had really heard about outside of the immediate area, and then boom, you had scouts from pretty much every single team come being at your practice. I mean, what's this whole whirlwind the last 12 months been for you?
Honestly, it's been it's been indescribable from when things started. It was very very small action, and then it just kind of once everything kind of started up slowly, it really built and got a lot crazier than I imagined it would. But it's definitely been something it's always been a goal of mine. I never really knew the details of what came with it, but just having this opportunity has always been a goal. So it's something I've kind of taken on as something I expected to go through, and kind of not let it surprise me. But it's definitely been different, just everything going on and being able to see what actually goes into the opportunity that's at hand for me.
Yeah, but just how did you manage it? I mean, how did your coaches help you manage it? Because you go from just your regular routine of playing, and I'm sure you're just focused on getting everything done, whether it's your schoolwork or actually, getting ready for the field. But now all this extra attention. I mean, how much time did you have to just put into, getting your head right?
Honestly, a lot more than I expected. I had to do a lot of turning my phone off during the weekdays, and kind of turning my head away from certain things and certain talk that was going around. And my coaches were really helpful with that. As they nothing changed with them, and a lot of the coaches helped me with scouts and get information. They kind of made it just the normal. They didn't make anything out of the ordinary or make it awkward for me. They kind of just really kept it grounded for me and kind of blocked a lot of the unnecessary noise out for me, so I could focus on the season and focus on what I needed to do. So it
That's
was
awesome.
pretty easy.
Yeah, shout out to the coaching staff for obviously making sure that you were able to stay on the right path the entire year. Um,
Yeah.
Now, for everyone that doesn't know, right now, you've already had a long day. You're taking the time to, go through the podcast with me here, but you're preparing for the Senior Bowl. So just at high level, what are you doing? What have you been doing for the last, week or so, going all the way through the next, almost 3 weeks until you're going to be in Mobile for the game?
I actually started training at Proactive here in Orange County, California, and I'm going to be training here until the Senior Bowl. But I've been training and really hitting the ground running to get everything going. It's going to be a lot of position drill work. We're one of the best coaches are known to really tighten up everything and make sure everything is crispy as much as I can going into that week. So really just trying to hit the ground running, not lose any time once I
All
get
right,
out
so
here.
But I gotta ask. Now, of course, you've been playing safety and you've been doing an incredible job at it. But I'm sure you're sort of thinking that maybe you might be switching over to a little off the ball linebacker at the next level. How much does that play into your preparation, thinking about what the future might have for you, or are you just sort of focusing on what you've been doing, playing safety?
Yeah, I'm focusing on what I've been doing. I feel as though that's a transition. If they feel that's a better position for me, or whatever the case may be, then they're gonna prepare me better than I can really prepare right now for what they're expecting. So I'm just going to continue to try to be the best version of me I can be, and then kind of let them see where what works best for them, and just kind of continue to try to get better at all the skills that make me the player that I am right now.
Yeah, yeah, of course. But do you have a preference though? Would you prefer, if you had it your way, would you always be staying at safety, or would you be open to doing something a little bit different? Not that I shouldn't say would you be open to it, because I'm sure you would do what the coaches ask. But if you had it your way, would you stay or would you make a change?
Honestly, I'll stay for reasons like comfortability and just something that I've kind of been growing into these last couple of years. I was a corner at first, so it's not like I've been playing this position my whole life. So there's definitely a lot that I still feel like I can really grow and really become a great safety at. But I know there's nothing wrong with a transition. So
Yeah,
but I do prefer. Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just hearing that you used to be a corner, and of course you've been playing safety for a while now. But yeah, are you watching tape of anyone at the NFL level trying to sort of model your game after?
Definitely. I watch a lot of the tape of the new age guys now, but the most player I've most tried to model my game after has been Eric Berry. I've watched him since I made the move, even before I made the move to safety. He's been probably my favorite safety in the league, and I watched a lot of his film, even though he's not currently active right now.
Which is
But
wild.
yeah, it is. But I do watch a lot. I watch all the top safeties: Jamal Adams, Derwin James, Harrison Smith, of course, even Earl Thomas. I just watch all the top safeties just to see what I can take to add to the arsenal, make me a better player. So I feel like that's definitely huge to
Yeah,
do.
I'm a little surprised that you're leaning more towards Eric Berry, kind of with your size. I'm like, all right, maybe more of a Cam Chancellor type, but all right, I respected the free safety.
Yeah, I love Cam as well. I love Cam as well.
No, we got a little ahead of ourselves here, jumping right into this, because what I'd really love to do is walk this back a couple years, because there was a time where, if I have this right, you're a 5'11", 170-pound senior, not quite the frame you have today. What was it like in high school? So if I have this all right here, you actually come from a very athletic family. Your brother ends up playing basketball overseas in Europe, a huge frame. Your mom allegedly at 5'11" could dunk. She's in the Grand Valley State Athletic Hall of Fame. So when you're a senior and you're 5'11", were you like, hey, have I arrived yet? Do I have more growing to do? Did you want to always play football, or was it basketball? Because I know you played both sports. Can you just sort of set the stage for us of what high school was like for you and what you were thinking was going to happen next?
Honestly, it was high school. It was it was a harder time for me just because I was going through that transition all 4 years. I was kind of not really given a shot because of my size, and the staff didn't feel that I was ready to play because of my size. So there was a moment where my junior year I actually thought about just trying to focus on basketball and take my chances at that at the next level. But I had a coach talk me into staying and just let me know that football translates no matter how big you are. And my year was coming up, so I stayed with it. And of course, that was the best decision, but it was definitely huge because that was my first love, and it's something that I really fell in love with over the years. I've been playing for so long, so I stayed with it, and then I'm having a pretty decent senior year, and even at a smaller size, I was only 5'11", but I still had a good senior year. It was my only year on the field, so it was difficult, but it was definitely something I had been waiting on all the years previously. So
Yeah. So if I read this right, your trip to Lenoir Rhyne was just a day. Where some guys were going for a full weekend. You were focused on basketball. You didn't really get the full recruiting experience, and I don't even know how many other schools even gave you the opportunity. So do you just remember that exact time when you're 17, 18, trying to figure out where you want to play and how that path to Lenoir Rhyne came together?
yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. Actually, I was going on campus, and I was the only one in it. And I wasn't just the only recruit, but it seemed like I was the only person on campus at the time. That it was during a break, and so all the students were actually gone home. Campus was snowed out, and it was really like a ghost town. But I saw it as an opportunity to further my career, so I really didn't think too much of the visit in itself. But it was definitely a different experience for than most recruiting visits.
Now, you talked a little bit about really kind of being tested, right? Where you didn't really know if you wanted to play and stick with it. And, despite going to an empty campus, you choose to go to Lenoir Rhyne and, you redshirt your first year. Was that something that did they tell you off the bat that was what they wanted to do? Or was that more of a surprise for you?
Um, they didn't tell me right off the back. I had a chance. I remember during camp I was actually in the 3D at one point, and but the talent we had at cornerback, we had some really talented seniors who had been holding it down and were really talented and had a lot of experience. So it was really no reason to try to force me into a lineup somewhere or a backup role. But it wasn't really a surprise. It was something I kind of just went along with. Once they told me, I was like, okay, well that's what it is, and I just did what I could with it.
Yeah, and I asked because you do redshirt that year, and you get to play the following year though, and you only win defensive freshman of the year for the entire conference, second team all conference, but then medical redshirt after playing just one game the following year. So two of those first 3 years, you don't even get a chance to play. I mean, at that point, do you remember thinking, "Do I really want to stick this out," or were you completely committed then?
No, I was completely committed. It was no doubt about that. It was more of a just trying. I was trying to see what was going on, what the situation was trying to teach me, and because I wasn't a huge injury prone guy in high school, but I did know that the second season I missed it was for a reason, and so I kind of just wanted to see what God was trying to show me, uh, and it was difficult, but I never once thought about quitting the game because of missing. It kind of just made me more passionate about it and made me not take it for granted.
I love it. And what does God show you? Well, the following 3 years, you're all conference each and every year. So the 4 years that you played, you're an all conference player. Each year, though, you just ramp it up and get better and better. So I want to ask though, just along that way, those next 3 years where you end up winning this year, you're the defensive player of the year for D2, the Cliff Harris Award winner. You're an All-American. You're still all conference when it comes to being a return specialist and a defensive player. How did you continue to elevate your game? You went from being, the obviously being an impact player as a redshirt freshman, but you got better and better to the point where it was undeniable. You work your way into being the Senior Bowl. What was your process for just continuing to get better?
So my whole thing since I came in and got that second opportunity to really build something as far as my football career was to get to the NFL and be a producing player. Not just make it there, but to get to the NFL and be a great player was always the goal for me. So when everything kind of went up and down around me, it kind of really didn't change because I was so focused on that. So when things went well, I was still working the same. When things went poorly, I was still working the same, and that really drove me just to make sure I keep getting better and keep progressing, keep moving forward, so I won't lose any time because I knew I was at a disadvantage coming from a smaller school and also, not really having everything that the guys at the bigger levels had, you know,
For sure.
to make themselves better. So I
Now,
kind of really just always focus on that.
now, I have to ask though, getting those extra 3 inches and adding those 50 pounds over those few years there more or less help. So just you getting that extra growth spurt and obviously hitting the gym and putting the time in, how much did that help your confidence? Just to know that you went from being more of an average size player to being like a really imposing player.
That I think it helped a lot. I mean, it definitely helped me on the field. I didn't really notice just because, you know, I kind of wasn't paying attention. It was just kind of happening around me almost, and it kind of just kind of like affected my game, but not to where, you know, I was like, okay, I'm bigger, so I'm going to try something different. It kind of just added to everything that I already had planned on doing, and really just resulted in something better than I could have expected.
Right. And our let's get this on the record now. You run a 4.40.
Yeah.
Now, so you added that size and that weight, but you still kept the speed. And I mean, the 11-foot broad jump, the 20 reps, the 6 foot. I'm sorry, the 6.7 second 3 cone drill. I mean, all the measurables were there. How important was that stuff to you? I mean, did you specifically focus on those numbers, or is that just sort of a net result of the time that you put in?
Oh, I definitely focused on it. We actually first started testing my first year, and from that point, I researched all the guys at whatever position I was at and took note of their testing drills of their combine. And since that year, I recorded everything that I tested at the end of each season. And so the goal was to kind of keep improving towards a final goal. And I was able to keep doing that in a lot of those areas. So that really helped me stay on track.
Gotcha. Now, I'm not trying to give away any trade secrets here, but I mean, if you could give one piece of advice, was there one drill, anything in particular that you really thought helped you on any one of those, whether it was the broad jump, the 3 cone, or even the 40? Was there any one thing that you would tell a young athlete, hey, if you want to get better at this, focus on that?
Honestly, all three of them, or every testing thing that they do has a lot to do with explosiveness. So I would tell an athlete as they grow, just continue to really focus on power and explosion and everything they do when they lift. Really focus on explosive, quick, explosive movements because that's gonna translate in any drill you do.
For sure. Now, I mentioned that you were an all-conference player as a returner, not just a safety. So, I think I read that you were playing running back early on when you were playing, whether it was even before high school. How important is it to you to be able to return at the next level? Is it something that you feel very adamant about? You know, it's just one of the, you don't see a 6'2", freight train coming at you as a returner. So I'm sure the teams out there are going to be very intrigued by it. But how did you develop that as well as being such an impact player on defense?
Um, it's kind of something. Honestly, I don't think I really lost once I did stop playing running back. It was something that kind of stayed with me, and I was able to use as a punt returner. So I thought it was I really didn't have to put a lot of attention into being a returner. I kind of just once I caught the ball, I kind of just let my instincts take over and just kind of let that running back side to where it's more natural, kind of take over, just do what I could.
Now, is there any chance we're going to see a glimpse of that at the Senior Bowl?
I actually did get word. Jim Nagy did tell me that I would be returning. So
Yes.
yeah, 100%.
Can't wait. Um, Now, I know that we're jumping ahead here because you're still waiting to hear word if you're going to be invited to the combine and how that goes, let alone how the Senior Bowl goes. But obviously, the NFL draft is coming eventually. Have you given any thought to what you want to be doing then? And I know a lot can change, but do you have any idea of what you want to be doing during that weekend?
Do you mean the week of the combine or the week of the Senior Bowl? You said.
I'm sorry, I mean the week of the draft. I know that the combine and the
Okay.
Senior Bowl can change a lot, but do you have any idea right now for the draft what you want to be doing?
I want to be around family. I know that, and I want to be able to enjoy whatever it is I'm allowed to enjoy as far as the process goes. So that's really the only two goals: just family and taking everything in as it is.
That's awesome. Now, Kyle, normally we end on this little thing I call the gauntlet, but before we jump into that, I want to make sure that I ask you about this because you're studying to become an engineer. And I know that we've talked a lot about football, but I read that you want to become an architect later down the line. So what maybe it's just being an architect, but what was it about that? What about the dreams that you have outside of football? Because I think it's very important that everyone realizes that football and this opportunity is really a vehicle for you to live your best life. So what, when football's all said and done, what do you see being, the piece of you that's going to be able to flourish?
Honestly, I feel like the experiences that that I'm able to go through, and more so the creativity part of my personality or my characteristics, is going to really help me. So just being able to see where I fit into that field, if that be the field I choose still, and just kind of let my mind create and really just do everything that whatever comes to mind, whatever I can think of, to have fun doing it.
For sure. In studying engineering, you're going to have a lot of options open, let alone what the NFL path brings you. All right, I got a couple quick questions for you, Kyle. It's just this little thing we call the gauntlet. I need to know, which would you prefer, having a kick return touchdown or having a pick six?
Pick six.
All right, now you're going to be seeing a couple different types of athletes at the next level. So would you rather be covering Julio Jones or Travis Kelce?
Julio Jones.
You don't want any piece of the big man, or you want the challenge of Julio?
I want to see. I want to see what it's like going against the best wideout in the NFL.
And I'm sure coming from Decatur, Georgia, you probably watch a Falcon game once or twice.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it, man.
Now, what's most important? Is it having the number one offense or the number one defense?
Number one defense.
For sure. Now, to this point, what's your favorite football memory?
My favorite football memory would be I actually had a teammate get a 96-yard interception return, but during the return, a couple of guys from my team, or actually the closest guys on my team, we were able to like kind of form a caravan down the sideline, like right in front of them, and just surround them and kind of lead them right to the end zone, and just we all were just plowing through guys, clearing the way for him, and he was able to get to the end zone. So that was probably the most memorable, most fun moment for me in college.
That's awesome. And that's so easy to picture too. Just like that caravan coming together just to escort your guy in. Um,
Yeah.
Now, I know I did ask specifically about that one drill that you'd recommend to a young athlete, but what I'd like to end on is, what's just the best piece of advice that you'd give to a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid that, looks at your story and says, man, how do I get there?
No, I tell them honestly to block out everything that's not important to them. I feel like a lot of issues come up, or a lot of the attitude will change for a person when they start looking at what everybody else is doing and look out the successes and what everybody else is doing around them, instead of just focusing on what they want and that's it. Not focusing on how somebody else's story is going. So I tell them just to really kind of get in their own zone and block out everybody else and don't look at any other man's plate or what they have going on for them, but just focus on themselves and keep faith in whatever it is they really want. And if nothing else matters, it'll work out.
From a guy that went from being 5'11", that no colleges were fighting over to get, to being the first guy in a while to be a D2 athlete to get invited to the Senior Bowl. And we have no idea what's about to come, but I can only imagine it's going to be a wild ride. So, Kyle, with that, thank you again for coming on. I cannot wait to see what happens in the Senior Bowl now that I know you're going to be returning some kicks. And best of luck. I can't wait to see what happens in the next few months for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.